The world's truly massive achievements do not rely on a simple budget. They build extreme megastructures that push empires into political ruin. When we think of elite spending, we look at tech billionaires. But true institutional power belonged to ancient monarchs. These powerful rulers controlled vast percentages of global wealth. Today, we are counting down 10 insanely expensive projects. They completely broke entire empires and triggered rebellions. We will look closely at how they built these marvels. Before we dive in, please like and subscribe to our channel. Hitting that subscribe button helps us bring you history videos every week. Do not forget to turn on a notification bell so you never miss a brand new deep dive episode from our production team. Let us start our global countdown with number 10, which takes us to the hyper-extended logistics of ancient Southern Europe. Number 10 is the massive network of long-distance Roman roads built across 3 continents by the expanding military forces of the Roman Empire. The continuous maintenance costs and the massive troop garrisons needed to guard them were completely crushing for the central Rome finances. This government infrastructure project faced massive logistical battles and intense financing issues across distant frontier provinces where tax collection was highly unstable. The desperate emperors eventually suffered massive financial hyperinflation because they heavily devalued their silver currency to pay for these endless road repair crews. By blending hyper-extended civil engineering with high military operational costs, they secured a slow but absolutely unstoppable imperial political collapse. Next up at number 9 is the ultra-massive historical capital city of Chang'an, built as a grand showcase in dynastic China. The structural project faced massive budgeting battles because the imperial court demanded absolute, symmetrical perfection and massive scale in every single urban design. The imperial court consumed vast percentages of the nation's agricultural tax output just to maintain the lavish capital lifestyle and royal gardens. The sheer financial strain left the Tang dynasty completely bankrupt when major internal rebellions rocked the outer provinces and cut off tax routes. The imperial forces were eventually forced to abandon the grand capital, which was repeatedly looted and completely destroyed by angry rebel armies. Number 8 takes us to the Mediterranean with the legendary ancient capital city of Alexandria, constructed in the delta of Egypt. Architects revolutionized the ancient style by building massive harbor structures like the Pharos Lighthouse, which required millions of silver coins. The ruling family also funded the legendary Library of Alexandria to collect every single written book and scroll in human history. The continuous cost of maintaining the giant harbor monuments and funding lavish court lifestyles broke the national budget completely. The entire magnificent kingdom was eventually forced to surrender its independence to the growing military might of the Roman Empire. Number 7, we look at the legendary Grand Fleet of Chang'an, built by the powerful Ming dynasty in China. The shipbuilders expanded rapidly by constructing hundreds of the largest multi-masted wooden vessels ever recorded in the history of the world. The project was notoriously grand and relied entirely on taxing the local peasant farmers to absolute financial and physical exhaustion. The disastrous financial strain forced the next emperors to halt all maritime exploration and intentionally burn the treasure ships. The Ming dynasty was forced to isolate itself completely from global trade networks due to the immense construction debts they accumulated. Number 6 takes us back to Europe with a legendary golden house of Nero built in the center of ancient Rome. The controversial emperor used the cleared land to construct a sprawling palace complex right in the heart of historical Rome. His loud and calculated display of personal vanity allowed him to drain the Roman treasury completely dry within a few years. The imperial administration was forced to heavily devalue Roman silver currency to fund his continuous luxury building costs while armies starved. The desperate citizens and powerful military generals eventually launched widespread bloody rebellions against his corrupt architectural rule. We have reached the middle position for today, countdown of the projects that completely destroyed great ancient empires. Before we reveal the top 5, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel right now. Your incredible support helps us spend more time researching these fascinating engineering history stories for your entertainment. Leave a comment right below about which empire-breaking project has surprised you the most so far on our list. Now, let us jump straight to number 5 on our list, which takes us straight to the ancient dynasties of East Asia. Number 5 is the massive Grand Canal built by the ambitious and completely ruthless rulers of the historic Sui dynasty in China. The staggering cost of this project was equivalent to trillions of modern dollars in labor value and required the forced conscription of millions. The ultimate result of this hyper-extended waterways project was the total economic and political collapse of the entire ruling Sui dynasty. To connect the northern Yellow River and southern Yangtze River, Emperor Yang forced over 5 million local farmers into brutal hard labor. The financial strain on the central state treasury was completely astronomical, but the ultimate human cost was far worse for the population. Historical records show that over half of the conscripted workers died of absolute physical exhaustion or severe starvation during the digging process. The workers had to clear miles of thick mud and heavy stone using primitive hand tools while facing harsh weather conditions nationwide. The emperor demanded absolute speed and execution because he wanted to use the massive canal to transport tax grain to his northern armies. Any worker who showed signs of weakness or tried to escape the brutal labor camps was instantly punished by imperial soldiers. This forced shift of manpower completely ruined the local agricultural cycles because there were not enough farmers left to plant crops. Widespread famines quickly broke out across the provinces while the imperial court continued to live in extreme luxury and isolated comfort. Facing a completely bankrupt national economy and an enraged populace, the empire quickly dissolved into widespread and highly violent peasant rebellions. Rebel armies composed of starving farmers and rogue soldiers began attacking imperial grain storehouses and conquering major structural outposts across the country. The internal chaos reached a breaking point when the elite royal guards turned against the crown due to a lack of payment. Emperor Yang was eventually captured and assassinated by his own generals, ending the short-lived Sui dynasty after just 37 years. This massive structural failure proves that overextending human and financial capital for personal monuments always leads directly to absolute political destruction. Moving to number 4, we cross the globe to explore the golden age of European absolute monarchies and royal vanity projects. Number 4 is the ultra-massive and breathtaking Palace of Versailles, built for the absolute rulers of the French Bourbon dynasty. The total cost of this magnificent gold-plated palace complex is estimated up to $300 billion in modern currency value. The ultimate result of this prolonged construction was laying the direct financial groundwork for the catastrophic and bloody French Revolution. King Louis XIV wanted to project absolute divine power, so he transformed a simple hunting lodge into a sprawling palace complex. Maintaining Versailles and the thousands of wealthy nobles forced to live there drained the French national treasury for multiple generations. The king used this lavish environment to strip the nobility of their regional power and force them to compete for royal favors. Every single room was packed with solid silver furniture, priceless silk hangings, and massive custom mirrors that cost a fortune. The construction required draining nearby swamps and forcing thousands of soldiers into hard labor to build massive water pumping systems. Hundreds of laborers died from malaria and accidents while trying to build the giant artificial lakes and fountains for the gardens. The subsequent kings inherited an empty treasury but refused to cut down on the immense operational costs of the royal court. Combined with incredibly costly international wars, this structural vanity project left France so completely bankrupt that the system fractured. King Louis XVI was eventually forced to call the historic Estates General to raise taxes, which directly sparked the French Revolution. The angry citizens marched directly to the palace gates, dragged the royal family to Paris, and eventually sent the monarchy to the guillotine. This monumental palace stands today as a beautiful museum, but its historic cost was the total destruction of the French absolute monarchy. Number 3 takes us to South Asia to examine an incredible city built by the most powerful empire in Indian history. Number 3 is the magnificent new capital city of Sikri, constructed for the rulers of the wealthy Mughal Empire. The cost of this urban project involved millions of pure silver coins and caused an untold amount of regional resource exhaustion. The ultimate result was that the entire city was completely abandoned after just 14 years, fracturing imperial stability and logistics. Emperor Akbar decided to build a magnificent new imperial capital from scratch out of beautiful and expensive local red sandstone. It was widely considered an architectural masterpiece, packed with grand palaces, massive public courtyards, and towering stone gates like Buland Darwaza. Thousands of skilled stone masons and artists from across the empire were forced to work day and night to complete the city. The buildings featured intricate carvings that blended different cultural styles to showcase the emperor's absolute religious and political tolerance. However, the entire multi-million-dollar engineering project completely ignored basic geography and regional environmental realities during the initial planning phase. The chosen desert area completely lacked a sustainable fresh water source to support the large imperial population and military garrison. The engineers built massive stone reservoirs and deep wells, but they could not keep up with the daily water demands of the city. Just over a decade after its grand completion, the severe water crisis made life in the new capital completely unlivable. The entire multi-million-dollar city had to be completely abandoned to the desert winds, severely straining the empire's financial logistics. The administration had to pack up all their archives and move to another location, causing massive organizational confusion across the provinces. Today, Sikri stands as a perfectly preserved ghost city that reminds us how geographic ignorance can ruin a massive financial investment. At number 2, we examine how the world's richest superpower spent its way into absolute economic decline through global overextension. Number 2 is the combined mega-projects of El Escorial and the disastrous Spanish Armada, launched by the powerful Spanish Empire. The cost involved countless tons of New World silver and pushed the Spanish crown into official state bankruptcy multiple times. The ultimate result was the permanent end of Spain's status as the absolute dominant military and financial global superpower of the era. King Philip II of Spain was completely obsessed with building El Escorial, a massive and austere palace monastery complex near Madrid. This giant granite structure drained the state coffers of cash, while the king spent his days micromanaging global religious wars. To fund his architectural obsession and his massive military campaigns, he borrowed heavily from wealthy Italian and German banking institutions. He believed that the endless fleets of treasure ships coming from the Americas would easily pay off his mounting sovereign debts. He then decided to build the historic Spanish Armada, which was a massive fleet of over 130 warships. The goal of the Armada was to invade England and restore Catholic dominance across the northern European shipping channels. The construction of the fleet required stripping entire forests of oak trees and manufacturing thousands of heavy bronze cannons at high cost. However, the disastrous naval campaign in the English Channel resulted in the complete destruction of his expensive fleet by storms and fireships. Despite importing mountains of silver from American mines, the sheer cost of these twin projects caused Spain to declare bankruptcy 4 times. The Spanish economy suffered from severe inflation, and the state could no longer pay the interest on its massive foreign loans. This structural overextension permanently broke Spain's economic back and allowed rival nations to conquer their global trade networks and territories. Finally, we reach number 1 on our list, which takes us back to the dawn of human civilization and monument building. Number 1 is the legendary Great Pyramid of Giza, constructed for the god-kings of the Old Kingdom of Egypt. The cost of this structural project required generations of total national economic output and caused massive agricultural disruption nationwide. The ultimate result was the total collapse of the central government and the fall of the Old Kingdom into civil war. Building the Great Pyramid required moving over 2 million massive stone blocks and feeding an army of tens of thousands of laborers. This monumental effort had to be repeated by multiple subsequent pharaohs who wanted to secure their personal legacy in the afterlife. The state funneled all of Egypt's wealth, food reserves, and manpower into building these giant stone tombs for decades on end. The skilled laborers were pulled away from their regular farming duties during the annual flooding of the fertile Nile River Valley. The central government had to manage massive supply lines to transport grain and meat across the desert to feed the workforce. This continuous strain left the central treasury entirely broke and unable to store backup grain for unexpected natural disasters or crises. The breaking point arrived when a severe multi-year climate drought caused the Nile River to stop flooding its agricultural banks. Because all national wealth had been spent on stone tombs, the pharaoh had no resources left to handle the catastrophic famine. Local governors realized the central government was completely broke and refused to send taxes to the royal court in Memphis. The empire rapidly fractured into centuries of civil war, starvation, and chaos, known historically as the First Intermediate Period of Egypt. The Great Pyramid stands today as an unbreakable wonder of engineering, but its real cost was the total destruction of its civilization. These historical stories prove that when rulers focus entirely on vanity monuments instead of economic stability, their empires always collapse. Thank you so much for watching our deep dive into history, most insanely expensive engineering and structural project failures. If you enjoyed this massive countdown, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel right now. Leave a comment below about which of these empire-breaking projects surprised you the most with its astronomical financial cost. We will see you next time for more amazing history and engineering breakdowns that reveal the hidden truths of the past.